Hi, I'm Michael Berman. Thank you so much for having me, Frank and ASMP. I'm really honored and happy to be here. Um, I'm going to talk about this project I've been doing for the last few years called 99 Snapshots, but first I want to back up to what I was doing before that, or kind of how I started off in New York. I had moved to New York in 1987, and I'd always loved New York and knew I wanted to live here. And as soon as I did, I started taking pictures on the street, just of things happening, people looking this way or that way, um, disparities, oddness, classic stuff. I mean, the clothespins and the hat, stuff that's gone, fans. And then modern more, because this is digital, but I guess around this point or here, I started to notice that New York seemed to really be changing a lot. A lot of the, I mean, you can, I guess, still walk around and find pictures to take, of course, like the ones that I just went through, but it seemed like a lot of what I was seeing or what I was noticing was people looking at their phones. And so that kind of became a thing. I was like, all right, well, what does this say about how we've evolved culturally? And, you know, it kind of made me sad. I'm guilty of it too. I'll look at my phone sometimes when I'm out. I try not to. But I just kept noticing it. When you look and you pay attention, you realize that those moments before where people were connecting with each other, you know, you have to work a little harder to find those. And yeah, so around that time, I came across these old pictures that I had taken in 1999. For like 2 months. At the end of that year, I had gone around and photographed around 300 or so people who I didn't know, who I just found on the street or in shops or in the subway all around Manhattan. And I never did anything with them and hadn't really looked at them as a set in a while, and just started to go through them and think about these people and what had happened to them. And I had their names because it had been meant to be a project. So I decided that I would start contacting them. So first, here's some of the people who I haven't found.
But Michael, what was the reason to do that?
Back in 1999, what was I doing?
No, like back in 99 and then now, like what is the reason? Are we thinking of a book? What are we thinking?
So, you know, I guess I left out some. When I was taking the pictures on the street, and as I have been, I've always just really gravitated toward people and how they're connecting with each other. And I think my love for New York from the start was always just because New York has this major confluence of people everywhere. And I just was always interested in it. And even from a young age, because I didn't grow up here, but even from a young age, when I visited, I'd be really, really curious about, you know, all these different people who just in such a variety, going in hurries or confident or sad or, you know, happy or whatever, you know, whatever you might encounter. And so when I took these pictures of the people in 1999, in part, it was really just an extension of that. I mean, it wasn't street pictures like, you know, snap a photo as actions happening. It was stop people and ask them, can I take your picture? But to me, it all really connects. And what I was getting at in 1999 when I took these pictures was a little bit toward their stories. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, maybe it's fortunate because I've done a lot with them, as I'll show you recently. But unfortunately then, I had wanted to turn it into a book, and I was working with someone else and we had to split apart. I mean, she came up with something that she wanted me to sign that was not, you know, everyone said, don't do that.
A publisher?
No, a friend.
A friend, okay.
A friend, and we had collected interviews actually. So we had collected interviews. It was in 1999, so this is before social media, before even the internet had really taken a big hold. And maybe it could have turned out to be something like Humans of New York. I mean, it's a lot grittier. It's not polished. The pictures are, you know, they're not conventional always. I mean, sometimes they're centered and snapshotty, but other times, you know, you have to kind of look at them a little more carefully to see why, you know, I might think it's a good picture. That didn't exist to compare to it at the time anyway.
Just, Mike, I just want to interrupt you. One thing important.
Yeah.
If you could do it in 1 or 2 sentences, when people are thinking about collaborating with someone,
Yeah.
Certainly without any names or anything, can you tell us, avoid this or look for this in that partner?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I love to collaborate. And so as I'll show you, I've been working on a film about this project, and I've brought in amazing people who are helping me. And I always want people to collaborate with. In terms of the pitfalls, I just think that you have to make sure you're on the same page. You know, I think that from you know, unfortunately, even creative things in this world are business somewhere down the line. I mean, a lot of the times, most of the time they are. So I think that, you know, it's not something that when you're feeling creative, you naturally come to, you know, to like think about the business questions and make sure you're on the same page with that stuff. But I think that that's probably the thing to do, is to just make sure that your goals are the same and that, you know, you're on the same page. And, you know, I mean, I think that, you know, yeah, obviously I'm not going to mention who it is, and you wouldn't know anyway, but that's what I would say.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought it's important for this audience.
Yeah, but I think it's great to collaborate. I mean, I think when you identify someone who shares with you, you know, a similar aesthetic and things that you want to accomplish, like message, like what's the message of something you're doing, and you can bring someone else on with you to do that together, it can have so much more power, and also you can be dividing so much work depending on what you're doing.
Okay.
So now these are a few photos of people who have passed away, and I've gotten stories about them. Not him, but that first person. This guy, I got great stories. This person also, he was actually kind of significant in New York in the 1970s and 80s. I really wanted diversity when I took those first pictures, and I realized that there were some people who you don't necessarily encounter on the subway, and maybe they're also the people who might not stop for you if you say, hey, excuse me, can I take your picture? So I networked a couple of times and got to her and a few other people. This guy played underneath 14th Street, like I think between 7th and 8th. And I think he's passed away. I looked him up, and actually a little blurb was done at the Times about him at some point. And I do remember that this guy was, I mean, he was beautiful, but I remember that his violin music was really not good. These people were in Ratner's, the old kosher dairy restaurant that was on Delancey Street. And now we get to the people who I've been following up with. So the very first roll of film that I took for this project was this guy. His name's Dachin, and he was on the 1-9 train up near your guys' stomping grounds, near 116th Street. And so I took a few photos of him on the subway, and then we got off with him, and I photographed him also on the sidewalk. So that's him a year or two ago. And this guy was in a bar on Park Avenue South. His name is, I have to look at my notes to remember the name of the bar.
Showing the grids like this is really great.
You like it?
I like it. I mean, Noon mentioned it, but it really is terrific, especially for a project like this, because you really get a sense of this guy, right? He's a charming guy.
Yeah, he's a charming guy. I remember this was the afternoon in a bar on Park Avenue South, and he was having a good time, and he still has a good time. We met at the same bar.
Has he left that bar, or has he just been sitting there?
He's left that bar. He doesn't go there regularly, but you know, it's one of these bars where everyone knows. I mean, it's literally like a Cheers.
Yeah,
people there, and he told me great stories. He told me about 9/11 and how like everybody who was a regular at this bar, just without talking, You know, again, most people didn't even have phones at that time. They weren't texting. They just all showed up at this bar, and it was packed, you know, just on that day.
Wow.
So there's a video of him. Hopefully, wave if you don't hear it. Hi.
Hi, how are you, Mike?
Thanks for meeting me.
Not a problem, not a problem. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you again.
Great to be here with you again.
What's been going on? Let's catch up.
My God, I don't know. Where do I begin? Let's see. I don't know. I got married. Well, that was like 7 years ago, so I got married. It really hasn't been a hell of a lot, to be honest with you, Mike. I was working, and I'm not now, so I'm just,
20 years, not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, hasn't been a whole hell of a lot.
No.
I'm very boring, Mike.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm very boring.
That's great.
So I just love, I mean, when I started filming these people, I just love how, I mean, finding them and then filming them, seeing how pictures can come to life with people who have stories to tell. And it's like I'm looking back in a window of time, like into the past. I'm finding these people and I can talk to them about the last 20 years, during which so much has happened. And I can also find out who they are and what they've been through. So this is Jack. He does like this lounge act at like a dive bar on 14th Street. And he sings like kind of lesser known songs from the 1960s karaoke style. And he puts it on the web also. And here's a video of Jack.
I was talking to my cousin the other day. The wind came up and blew a wig away.
This wasn't like this years ago. Now you walk down up this Lafayette Street, and you get all kinds of tourists, things like that. This is a nice casual walk. Now you're going to see it's going to be really trouble. You're going to run into mobs of people like this.
What do you think they're in line for?
It's probably some restaurant or something that is the latest thing that they
What are you guys in line for?
Glossier.
For what?
Glossier.
Glossier? So like
It's like the only store they have.
They even sell wigs in the grocery store. Wigs, wigs, wigs.
That's Jack. He's
Michael, this is great. That's really fun.
Thank you. He's cool, right? Why do I have this here? Okay, this is this guy William, and with the priest. The priest has passed away. I spoke with the people from his church. I didn't dig very deep. William now works as he works, I guess, like as a superintendent or janitor, I guess you could say, at a women's shelter in East Harlem. And this is Nina. And it turns out after these 20 years went by, and Nina's been living, less than 20 blocks from me the whole time. And she specializes in estate sales of apartments, like as a real estate broker. And I love that she carries 2 bags, then and now. And so Nina, yeah. So this guy is Abdul, and he had a little cart over near that park that's now called Zuccotti Park. And I didn't know how to find him. I couldn't find him on the internet. And I looked at this contact sheet and I saw Nina, which is like the top half, and that Abdul was right after Nina. So after I met her here, I wandered around to see if I could find his cart, and he's still doing his thing. He's got a bigger cart. That's like a chicken and rice with lots of stuff on it. He's like half a block away. And this is Eric. He was in Central Park with his then wife. They're now divorced, and that's him in his apartment in Brooklyn. This is Johnny. He owned this tiny little barbershop just north of Hell's Kitchen on like 9th Avenue called Roosevelt Barbershop. Maybe some of you guys have passed by it. And he passed away, but working in that shop was Jobina, and she's now the owner of the shop.
And Michael, do they remember you, these folks? Like on
Some
the call?
Yeah, most don't. Some do when they see the picture. And some people who I'll show you actually remember the day. And I mean, I don't know if it's a coincidence or means something, but the people who really remember me who I think most of the people who actually remember this day are the people who are now very old. So maybe it's something to do with like how our memory works and what we remember from when. Because 20 years is a long time for like some little thing that happened to actually remember it. This is Jeff. He worked 20 years exactly on the police force and then retired and got his full pension. And now he's a stay-at-home dad in Long Island. This is Roy. Roy lived in the same apartment almost his whole life. Unfortunately, he passed away from COVID last spring. And he would only meet me at this one diner on his corner, which was really noisy. And I have a lot of very sketchy audio that I'm trying to sift through to find something that I can use from him. I was playing around a little bit with these collages at the time. So I haven't done as many this time around, but I've done some. Here's some from a few more from 1999. And this guy on the right, Charlie, he and his mom have a family pork wholesale business. They were in the meatpacking district, and the whole meatpacking is basically gone. There's only a few businesses left. So now he's in the Bronx in a rather nondescript location. I've talked a lot with him about how that felt to him for his business to have to move to sort of like this area of nothingness, just businesses and trucks, when he had been in this vibrant neighborhood with so much going on. This is Alzarina. She was recently, or not recently, but she was like married very young. She had just had her second kid, and her husband did not treat her well, bad things. And she got divorced from him, thank God. But on her own, while she was still married with him, she started a successful jewelry business. So I'm going to play a video of her.
I did a deal on Groupon, and on 11 hours, I sold over 5,000 pieces. And I panicked. I didn't know what to do because it was my first time doing a deal like that. I'm doing this deal. I'm thinking I'm going to sell 100 pieces, yeah? But I sold over 5,000 pieces in 11 hours. And I'm like, how I'm going to do it? I had my neighbor, I did all the packaging from my neighbor's house and packed the stuff. After my husband would go to work, I had people come and help me pack the thing. I mean, it's like...
You had a whole secret.
I lived a double life, which I am so thankful I did it, because if I didn't have that life, who defined me, who would like for me to find myself, there was no way I would be the person I am today, because I had nothing.
She's great.
So Michael, is the idea to end up with a book with this? Like, how do you see it?
So doing the film has kind of taken over because it's such a vastly huger endeavor, and I'm teaching myself how to do it. In editing and everything and audio and gosh. But I have been doing follow-up pictures, as you've seen, with each of these people. And I would love to make a book out of it. My idea would be to do then and now pictures, but also to include a nice amount of text so that we can get a little window from each of these people or couples in the book. Because I've always liked that. I've always liked to kind of see how, I love how pictures tell stories, and I know that's, a picture, 1,000 words, but I also just think that, and from this experience, I've seen that, when you ask someone who's a so-called ordinary person just regular questions about themselves and get them to open up a little bit, you find out that everybody has something to say. Everybody can offer, insights that are magical, or that make you think, or that maybe even sometimes they tell you about problems that we have in society. But all of that is stuff that I think we shouldn't avoid. We should be curious about other people and see how we can learn from them. And so, yeah, I think a book with pictures then and now would be great. And I'd love to track down all these other people who I haven't yet even been able to call, because I've got enough people basically for the film at this point.
It'd be interesting, like, to have a book, but then give people like a special access to the video piece of it, because the video piece of it is phenomenal. right? I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a way to do that, but that you'd have a thumb drive or some kind of a link that would be exclusive to that book owner, so they can see that. Because
That's a really cool idea. I mean, because I'm editing the film, so it's a cohesive piece. However, I have much more footage that I can pull from what I filmed that won't be in the film that could be, I mean, a lot of what I chose, a few of the things I chose for today are probably in the film, but most of them are just extras. And there's a lot of really good extra stuff.
Yeah, Allison Hunter mentioned something. You can get a private link on Venmo.
Yes.
To do that.
Yeah, I could offer a code on Venmo.
Yeah, so I interrupted. Continue.
No, it's okay. I'd love to crack the book, the code of getting a book made. I mean, that's just always felt like such a daunting thing, but I would like that. So anyway, this is our Royal and Amanda. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. It was the first, boyfriend, girlfriend each of them had. They lived in the East Village. He lived in the Lower East Side and she lived in Stuytown, and they would wander around the village at night. And that's how they had time together. So they were just in front of the Rite Aid on First Avenue, like around, I think it's 4th Street or something. Neither of them lives in New York now. So I met them separately and then composited these two pictures together to kind of recreate what I had before. This is Constance. She was in the Odessa bar on Avenue A, and this is her with her family now. And before I knew that I would make a film, I thought I would just do audio of all these people and do something maybe like what you just said, and you could hear them speak. So I put one of the early audios that I did onto this picture so you can hear what that was like.
When I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to have a family. And I knew I wanted it to be tight, and that's what I have now. If I could have made every single choice that I made and have enough money to live more comfortably, of course that would be great. I wouldn't trade what I have, and who knows if I would even have what I have if I had done that.
I mean, it's a different experience, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So as I was starting off and seeking people and just doing those audios, I met her, Victoria, and she is a teacher, a middle school teacher, but also she makes documentary films. And when she met me and I told her about these pictures, she was the one who said, you got to try to make a film out of this. So she actually inspired me to go to all of this trouble, do all this work to turn it into a film. These two, my wife, my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, was working at a restaurant in Soho called the Savoy, kind of like an organic-y kind of thing. They cooked in that fireplace in the background, and I was there after doing some of these pictures one night, and these people were having dinner celebrating their 1-year anniversary of dating. So I don't love that picture, but I like these, and I love him, and she's great. And this is her now. And this is him now, and I have a short video of them.
I didn't necessarily not want kids, but I didn't want kids. Like if I met somebody who was like, I didn't feel the maternal. Like I always said, if I met someone who was like, I can't wait to have like 3 kids and a dog, like okay, I could be into that. But it wasn't.
You would have ran away from that.
If you had said you really wanted to have a son or a daughter, or whatever, what you said was you wanted to be a grandfather. And I was like, well, you can't be a grandfather without the kid part. And neither of us were like into the kid part. So it just, we were like, okay, we're both ambivalent.
I've had the same attitude. Like I didn't feel at no point growing up or, in my younger years, I didn't feel, I really need to have a kid. But if she had woken up one day and said,
okay, what's happening?
I got my moment.
Not a
I
compromise.
need a child.
Yeah.
Then I think if that would have happened, I would have been into it.
I just love how they are with each other. Really sweet.
Yeah.
This guy was one of the later people I called because I didn't love his pictures. But I'm so glad I did because he's added a ton to the project in terms of some of the themes and topics that I've been covering with people. Marion so a lot of these people who I've photographed, I've become friends with, and she's one of them. I mean, I talk to her on the phone probably every couple of weeks. She's in her late 80s now. Those are her two granddaughters. She would bring them to dance school every weekend as they were growing up in Harlem. So that's her with the one she's dancing with on the left. That's the same woman now on the right. Her name's Lindsay. This is Marion. Yeah.
It's interesting the way you present it, because when you show the first image of the three of them, like, you've now created this situation. We can't wait to see the next shot. You can't wait to see the next shot. So it's just from a presentation standpoint, that's really, really nice. Really.
Thank you. So I've met her a lot of times. I've filmed her a lot, and I'm going to show you a video in a sec. She's just like so sweet and great. So this is her in church. She's a devout Catholic. This is her in her room. She's lived in the same apartment in the projects at the north end of Manhattan since the building opened, like in 1951. She's been living in the same apartment.
This is ACLU.
Mm-hmm. You gonna give them anything?
Yes, I do. Scheinberg Center, Catholic Charities. This is the Boys and Girls Club of America.
How many times a year do each of these places want money?
More than once a year.
More than once.
Yeah, but I don't give all the time.
You gotta. I mean, so.
Because they send it.
It's all your
2 or 3 months until like that. And I just do what I want to do at the time. Now, see this one?
Yeah.
What does this say? American Vet Dogs. See, that goes back.
You have income from a pension and Social Security, right?
Yes,
yeah.
I have both, yeah.
So that's how you can afford all this.
Oh, that's what you think?
So the day I photographed Marion, you see her at the top in the center, the second row. I photographed a couple of other people, and that woman with the hats, the fourth row down, I said to her, do you have any other ideas where I could take some pictures? I remember doing this. And she said, well, there's a dance performance going on in the church right there. So I went in and I got these few average pictures, second to last row, of a performance, and that was the end of it. But then I wandered into, I don't know how, I don't remember exactly, but I ended up photographing Brian and Susan, and those are the two on the bottom row here. And that's them now. And they were dance partners, and at the time they were guest dancers as within this group of dancers who happened to all be seniors. But now Brian doesn't dance anymore, or so he says, although he can. And Susan is running that very same dance group that they were guest performers in back in 1999.
So Michael, what happens when you do one of these interviews and it's a dud? Right? There's got to be something that I got nothing out of that.
I mean, I try to make them, I've learned a lot about how to not make them duds. And, part of what's made it work, I think, is that I take the time, if they're willing, to get to know them. Because I think you have to, because I know nothing about them. So you have to kind of figure out first, like, who are they? What's important to them? What would they really gravitate towards in terms of a conversation? So, you have to put in the time. But there are some people who just seem like, I think I'd be terrible if someone came to me. Like, you hear me in the film, but like, I'd be terrible if someone came to me and I felt like I was in the spotlight, because I get nervous, like when like the attention's on me. Like now I'm nervous, I'm okay, but I think, yeah.
No. Well, what I was going to say is, like, for you and for every other photographer, it's learning a new set of tools to make your craft expand.
Yes.
Right? Because
absolutely. We all know how to talk to people, or we should, and we should all listen to people. And I think that, as I try to write grant applications for this project, like, one of the things I say over and over again is that I just think there's so much value in noticing other people, because that's what we have to do first. We have to notice people. We have to be curious about them, especially people who are different from ourselves. Because we're all sharing this world, and there's a lot of problems, and what the heck, how are we going to get past them? So it's really just kind of hopefully make people understand that, you know, and I think this works even if you're just taking pictures, right? I mean, like if you're not making a film, you're not talking to someone, but you just want a good picture. I mean, the good one's the one usually where there's a connection. It's not the one where the person's, you know, giving you like a squinty mean eye and they're pissed off that you want to take their picture. I mean, that's not usually the good picture. So I think it's the same in both realms.
Yeah, no, you've mastered it.
This is Brian.
I consider my face like a painting, really, and it's kind of fun to do, and like I said, it's part of the whole experience of, you know, you're going out and you are finishing off what you're doing. You know, you are, I don't know, makes you feel like a little special. You can cover up a few flaws. I guess there are some people who are, I don't know, a prisoner to makeup. You know, I'm sure more women than men, but I'm not one of those people. I don't, you know, my skin's fine, pretty good. Yeah, I like it.
This is Christine in Bonbonniere in the West Village, and that's her there now. This is Michael. He was working in his family-owned herb shop in Chinatown, and now he's a painter. And this is Ron. He's a psychologist in New York City public schools, and he's been sharing a lot of really great insights, just because that's what the film's basically about, is what things I've been saying, you know, people and, you know, culture and life, everything. This is John. He's semi-retired. I guess I could say he was in advertising. Now he does just some advertising work from home. He lives in Connecticut. And I talked to him about like what was going on in that first picture, because like for all these years, I thought he wasn't happy with me taking his picture, but he was going through, you know, working in the ad business, as I'm sure some people who might be watching this may know, you know, if they've talked to the people who hired them, it's a high pressure job, and it's you know, it's rough. And I think that his face there on the left, that's what that's showing. This is Kenyatta. He was delivering mail in Hell's Kitchen. Right, I photographed him right after the barbershop, Roosevelt Barbershop. Now he delivers mail to buildings in Midtown. And I've asked him, you know, what does he prefer? And so I think you'll figure it out from this little clip here.
Sometimes the old ladies, they come down, they start to gather around the mailman, waiting for the mail to finish. So I go slow, because I'm making their day. So I'll have like maybe 8 or 9 old ladies in back of me, and they'll be chatting away. I know they're waiting for the mail, but I'm extending it. I want them to stand there and talk as long as they can. So that way, when they go back upstairs, maybe they'll take a nap and they'll say they had a nice day because they had a nice chat while the mail was being put into the mailbox.
Beautiful.
So sweet.
Yeah.
So I hope I'm not taking too long. I'm getting toward the end. Is that okay?
Yeah, move.
Whiz through. Okay. So this is Helen. She was in Central Park. She had a stroke and now lives in a nursing home in Rhode Island. She's one of the people who remembered.
I have to deal with so many different people every day, like 12 different aides, 3 at each meal, 3 at lunch, and 3 at dinner, and 3 at putting me to bed. That's 3, 6, 9, 12 a day that I have to deal with. I have to be nice, and you can't be too nice to them because they get suspicious of your intention. Like one girl who's on at night, she got angry with me because I asked her about herself, and she told me she was going to quit this job here. And I said, "Where are you going to go?" She said, "I'm going to be a state trooper." I said, "You're going to carry a gun?" She said, "Yes, but she can't even come in here and deal with me. So how's she going to deal with all those people in cars that she has to give tickets to?"
This is JK and Bob. Bob also had a stroke. He was the owner of the record shop in the village, Bleecker Bob's.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, and this is JK.
I like it that I can do this for as long as I can, because who knows, you know?
and I've been doing it a long time.
Was there ever any question in your mind that you were going to take care of him?
No. It was immediate.
Yeah.
It was just immediate. People ask me that too. They're like, what were you like before you started, like, you know, caring and doing all of this and dedication? And I keep thinking that I was this carefree type of girl, but then people tell me, no, JK, you were always like the person to make sure everybody at the party was okay. And I was like, really? I didn't know. Or maybe they think I was like some kind of crazy, like, party drug addict, and that now I'm like doing the Mother Teresa thing, you know? And I'm like, no, I kind of wasn't that either.
We're almost at the end. This is Anne Marie and her 2 young twins, and this is her with them now and her husband. This is Dagmara, and this is Dagmara now. This is a poker. Oh, I have to tell you about the poker game. So we got into a poker game, and the guy on the right is named Peter, the guy with the hat, and that's him now. He's a writer and a professional poker player. And this guy is Nick, and I photographed him after Christine outside of Bonbonniere, not realizing that at the poker game where Peter's on the top, Nick was playing in that game. He's the guy in the brown shirt on the bottom 2 pictures on the left. So, and that's just one of like a ton of random coincidences that, you know, happen when you just start to go and interact with people. And that's Nick now. And this is my last guy. This is Inderjeet. My note on the contact sheet from '99 said that he was an economist in a hurry. And here's just one tiny video of him.
We don't pick our parents. We don't pick where we were born or where we are. You know, we certainly have a choice of what we do after we get to this earth. But nobody has a special permit that they were going to be born in place A, B, or C. You know, this is all an accident of nature.
There you go. So Michael, did you have the intention when you did this, when you first shot, that you were going to go back to these people 10, 20 years later?
No.
It just, but you always did take people's names and numbers when you could?
Not every time when I take pictures, but this happened to be I mean, I've worked for newspapers a lot, so I mean, I have a lot of pictures from that where I know whose pictures I took, but like local news. But this really was sort of like a time capsule that, you know, was really fortunate that I had these names to go with the people. But I mean, it's an adventure to try to find people. Just because I have the name doesn't mean I find them.
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.